Good afternoon, and welcome to our live stream focusing on the Hour of Code. This week marks Computer Science Week and also marks Hour of Code for Code.org. And we are really excited about this live stream and hope that many of you will be able to see this. If you're not able to see it, see the live recording of it later on. But we were very happy to have some guests with us today. And we're going to go through a couple of that. But first of all, I want to go through our housekeeping tips just to kind of let everybody know. So this session is going to be recorded. You can actually subscribe down below and like this video too. We would like for you to like this video. If you'd like to ask questions, you feel free to ask them in the chat over on this side, or it could be down below, I believe. You can ask them. We have moderators with wrenches by their names, and you can actually see that on our website. So also a couple of things besides communication, we'd like for you to like us on our Twitter account at EdTechPBC and our hashtag at ETPBCPD. And you can always find all of our resources at edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. So you can see recordings, you can see our YouTube channel. So there's a lot there. So we are going to get started, and I'm going to have the pleasure to introduce Joe Russo from Palm Beach Tech, and he's going to say a few words and introduce our guest. And we're glad to have you, Joe, and thank you for arranging all of this.
No, thank you so much, John, and thank you so much to the work of the many awesome folks who make up the Palm Beach County School Districts, the teachers, the administrators, the folks working behind the scenes, sometimes like you, putting all the different pieces together. Happy Computer Science Education Week for those who are watching. Thank you for taking part in an hour of code. Even if you are a teacher, or you're a student, you're a parent, just going to code.org and introducing some students to computer science education this week. That's the least we can do. Right, and either be like as simple as playing Minecraft in some regards, or as simple as some of the games on code.org. It is really amazing to go and talk to students about technology, and in some cases just code with them. And I've had some very rewarding experiences personally doing that. And today we're very lucky to have three amazing individuals. We're going to be talking about their experiences and journeys in computer science and technology and coding, and I would be very honored to introduce them now. And first off, we have Michelle Bakels, who is a lead developer and instructor at Boca Code. She actually got her computer science degree from Florida State University and is just a wonderful leader in our community. She's also the vice chair of Code Palm Beach and has been, just a joy to work with through the many times she has either worked at the Science Center or different libraries to teach our next generation how to code. In addition to that, I would also like to introduce Shane Stebner. He is an architect, a software architect at Office Depot, and he actually learned a good amount on his own in terms of learning how to code and just trying to figure out things over the years. He has two kids of his own. He's teaching, not only in Code Palm Beach and in some of the libraries and other efforts that we've had, but also just as a cool dad. And then we have Ryan Gates, who is a site reliability engineer at UKG, the Ultimate Kronos Group, and formerly known as Ultimate Software in Weston. He is also the founder of Code for South Florida, the co-founder, I should say, and has done a lot of work over the last couple of years in taking part in Hour of Code. So these are three of the most awesome people I could think of to take part in this panel. They've all been very passionate about this subject and getting their passions of technology back into the schools, back where it all started for them. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, John, to share today. And I'm going to go off and just listen to these wonderful people talk to you and join the panel today.
Thanks, Joe. So let's go through our panel and just let them introduce themselves and kind of tell them a little bit about what they do, where they work. And we'll start off with Michelle. Why don't you unmute yourself and just share a little bit with what you do?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Michelle Bakels, and as Joe mentioned, I am now a lead instructor or a lead developer and instructor for Boca Code. This is actually my first week with them. Right before this, I was a software engineer for Florida Power and Light NextEra Energy, where I built some software applications for them. As Joe mentioned as well, I have a degree in computer science. Before that, I actually got a degree in art history and Italian. So I've kind of been on the art side and the tech side. And now I'm at Boca Code, of course, which is a new code school down in Boca Raton. We teach a variety of courses, short courses for learning tech skills, and we even have long courses for building a full career out of tech. So happy to be here again. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Shane, would you like to share a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Hi, I'm Shane. I've been a self-taught programmer for about a decade now. I ran my own company for a long time, and I've been at Office Depot now for about a year. Since moving down to the West Palm Beach area, I found out about Palm Beach Tech and Code Palm Beach, and I've been trying to teach kids how to code now for a couple of years.
Great. We appreciate that. Ryan, would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Ryan Gates. I'm a site reliability engineer at UKG, and I've been there about 5 years. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science, and my wife formerly taught at Tamarack Elementary in 3rd grade and 5th grade, and that was how I got started with Hour of Code and really enjoyed it. And said, other students should be able to experience this. So been trying to grow bigger and bigger, and thanks to the help of everyone here, we've been able to really expand it. I also help organize Code for South Florida, which is a great opportunity to use coding and technology to help governments deliver services more effectively and help our communities be better.
Great. We appreciate all three of you being here today and joining us. We've got a few questions that we're going to ask. And then if we see something pop up in the chat today, I may bring that question up just a little bit, kind of talk about. So you kind of already hinted about this, but I'm curious, how did you get interested into coding? Were you interested in it as a kid? Is it something that happened in school? Is it something that happened? Maybe it was during your graduate degrees and stuff like that. Who would like to start? Just raise your hand. Go ahead, Shane.
Sure. So in high school, I just kind of fiddled around with building websites. I found it interesting and fun. I made some Flash games for class. In a history class one time, I made a Jeopardy game, which was kind of neat. And so I always had this interest in technology. And after a couple of years of being an adult and working in healthcare, I decided I wanted to make this my full-time career. So I started to pick up gigs and learn as I went and build my company from there. So I just have always had an interest in it.
Awesome. Anybody else? Go ahead, Ryan.
So I was in high school and just started playing around with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and just learning some of the basics. And I found out that it came kind of naturally to me. I seemed to get it a little bit easier than some of my fellow students. And it really just kind of clicked, and I started to really enjoy it. And then I saw the tremendous power of what you can do and how you can change and shape people's lives for the better. So really exciting.
Right. Michelle, you're next.
Hey, so yeah, I didn't get started with coding until a little bit later, like probably around my mid-20s. I made the changeover. I actually, like I mentioned, got an art history degree. I was working in art galleries for a little bit of time, and while I was in the art galleries, I ended up, starting to learn how to build their website, fix their website. And while I was doing that is when I kind of decided, this isn't so hard. Maybe I'll go back to school for computer science. But there was really a big difference between making some HTML and CSS changes in a website and getting a full computer science degree where you do algorithms and data structures and everything like that. So unlike Ryan, it did not come naturally to me. It was very difficult, actually. But I will say that, you know, fortunately, I was able to connect with Palm Beach Tech right when I started my CS degree, and I was able to enter into this community where I had access to mentors and meetups and things like that. This tech infrastructure that Palm Beach Tech has built around our area, where I found a lot of support, and that helped keep me engaged to like make it through that struggle of learning how to code. But that was the beginning of my journey, and what got me into coding is a little bit of building the websites in the gallery, and a lot of it of being part of this wonderful community that Palm Beach Tech has built here.
Oh, that's awesome. We always learn in communities, and I think that's really important to have that kind of community and effort. So the next question is, what kind of education did you receive in coding? Did you take any classes? I mean, some of you kind of waited and stuff like that. Some of you did early in school, like Ryan was talking about. But what kind of coding did you get education-wise? Anybody?
In high school, if you don't mind, raise my hand.
Go ahead, Shane.
Sure. So in high school, because I was interested in coding, I actually took a basic programming class. It was totally different than anything I've ever done in my professional career. It was mainly just playing around with writing little scripts and trying to make things happen, and nothing that was actually shippable or a real product or anything. I believe we made a game as our final. And then when I went to college, I actually did take an introduction to web programming, where we used very simplistic tools, Dreamweaver, made really basic websites. And at that point, I had already been more advanced. So it was just kind of recapping things I already knew, but it was my only actual college formal education for my career.
Okay, interesting. Anybody else? Ryan or Michelle?
Sure. So go ahead, Ryan. You can start.
No, you first, please.
Okay, thanks. So the education that I received in coding, I got my computer science degree from Florida State University, but it doesn't really end there. I think a lot of every software developer I know, would say that you have to continue teaching and learning as you go through your career. So first is the computer science degree, but there's a lot of information online, like Udemy tutorials and things like that that you can take. And actually, before I started working for Boca Code, I was a student of Boca Code, so I've actually learned some Python and taken some of the courses here with Boca Code before I started working here as well. So there are lots of resources and ways.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, and definitely want to echo what Michelle said. I went to UCF and worked in computer science, but definitely, it's the kind of career where you're always learning, and what we did in class for the coursework was absolutely different once I got into the job and started working. In the coursework, it was a lot of greenfield projects and a lot of doing things independently. Whereas as soon as I entered the workforce, they had an existing code base. There was a team of people to work with. So, which I actually like more, though. I missed, being in the team. It's a lot more fun than just going at it alone.
Yeah, I can imagine how it could be that way and stuff like that, because it's always better working when you're working in a group, I think, than working by yourself. Although some people love to work by themselves. So that kind of ties into our next question. You guys have kind of lead into this. How do you use coding in your current job? Now, I'm sure you can't tell us exactly some things because you may want to keep things to your selves a little bit about what you're working in your industries and stuff like that. But can you just kind of tell how you use coding in your current job or in previous jobs too? Who wants to start us? Anybody want to start?
I'll start this time.
All right, go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, so I'll talk about the last job that I was with and this job as well. So when I was with NextEra FP&L, obviously we work in a lot of energy products. So the coding that I did there first, I did some support for a trading application. So NextEra Energy trades energy, kind of the same way that you would imagine, Wall Street working. And so worked on a really cool application that supported energy trading. I also got to build an application to support transactions on natural gas pipelines, mostly out in Houston, Texas. So that was the work that I did at NextEra. And now that I'm here at Boca Code, we're a code school, but we're also kind of an agency. So we have clients. So the way that I use coding now is, any client can kind of come and hire us to build applications for them. So my coding now is very versatile. Whereas before I had dedicated projects that I spent a lot of time working on, and it was very much the same. Now, in a day, I could be working on 2 or 3 different applications, and doing different coding styles and things like that throughout the day, switching between those applications. And then on the other side of it, I'm an instructor, so I use coding as well to teach students how to code. So that's how I use coding in my current and previous jobs.
Great. Anybody want to go next?
Sure. So in the past, I had done a lot of full stack development, so everything front end, back end, websites start to finish. And now I've transitioned into more of a support role. So a lot of the stuff that I work on is actually built to automate processes for developers and make their jobs easier. So I'm automating pipelines and deployments and helping to just make the developer's life easier. And that's the primary use of coding in my current job, but there are still some cases where I set up new APIs and build new technologies as well.
Always got to stay current, don't you? Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely echoing what they said. I've worked in the pipeline space, used Jenkins, and trying to get faster release times and get code out there to our users. Currently, I'm very interested in monitoring, and so we can get ahead of issues and make sure that the site is stable and usable and responsive. We use a tool called Sensu, so implementing a lot of different checks to make sure everything's working as we expect it. So that's been a lot of my coding lately.
Okay. I'm kind of curious because, I don't know if our students and our teachers will understand what a pipeline is. Can someone kind of explain that for us?
I'd be happy to.
Go, Ryan.
So if you think about code, a lot of times when you're working, just kind of run it and it runs. But for more complex projects, a lot of times you might have unit tests that you want to run and reports that you want to generate based on that. You might have minification or bundling so that your software is smaller and can be deployed or is more efficient. So a pipeline kind of puts all that together with the idea that you can, with one click, release your code or the latest version to your users.
So updates and packages and that kind of stuff, I assume, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So we're moving on. So what would you recommend to students who are interested in coding? What would you recommend to students as you go through? I know, Shane, you actually do some coding with students and stuff like that. So I'm sure you do those kinds of things. And I know, Michelle, you've got work with more adults, right? But just how would you recommend to students? Any words of wisdom, advice?
For me?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Jane. All right, so I actually do spend a lot of time working with students. I work with Code Palm Beach. I've been an instructor for Girls Who Code, and I do mentoring with Built by Girls as well. And what I would say for students is best thing to do is, first of all, if you can find a community or a mentor, somebody who can be there for you, who maybe is a couple steps ahead of you, who can help guide you or give you advice, somebody that you trust, or through an organization that you trust. I think that's big. A lot of the students that I work with, I do keep in touch with, even after, our time together, our sessions has ended. I do try and make sure that they're still finding a way through some of the challenges of learning to code, and also finding a community. I can't sing the praises of Palm Beach Tech enough. There are thousands of people in this community that you can reach out to, and that are, it's a very welcoming community. If you have any questions, we have Slack channels and things like that. Like, once it's appropriate to join the community, I would strongly recommend finding a community to join as well. And then, of course, just stick through it. If you find coding to be interesting and fun, or you really like the challenges or the possibilities, when you start to hit those roadblocks, and when you're stuck on a problem for a few days, just don't give up. You'll always find a way through. You'll always find a solution. It's something that I can promise. It might not look the way that you thought it would, but you will make it through it. So one of the things that I would strongly recommend is just stick through the challenges, no matter how frustrating they get, and lean on your community too when you have those hard times.
That sounds like great advice. Shane, you want to go next?
Sure. So she hit the nail on the head with a lot of it. I think it's really good to have a support group, have other developers you can speak to when you get stuck, and if you have questions, and that you can seek guidance from. For becoming an actual programmer, though, as a career, I think that this needs to be like the number one thing in your life, something you really love that you want to do around the clock, because it's so competitive and you're always learning new things and you have to stay on top of new technologies. So it can't just be like something you do 9 to 5 just for the money and you don't really care about it. You should really enjoy programming. So, if this is something that you want to do, love it, own it, learn, find others that are interested in it, that are doing it. And like stick with it. Like she said, if you get stuck on something, you can get past it. You have to work at it. It's difficult. Sometimes it's something tiny and it's frustrating. But then when you hit a big win, it's very rewarding.
Great. Ryan, what words of wisdom would you add?
So definitely echo everything that's been said. And I love Michelle's example of working on the website for the art gallery. I think there's a lot of power in finding a passion, so finding something that you're passionate about and using your coding expertise, and you're learning through that, because I think that'll help you get through some of the challenges and some of the hills and different things like that. In addition, I would say definitely, once you connect with the community, share your frustrations, share your issues, because a lot of times there's a tendency to think that you're the only one who's struggling with this, or you're the only one who's facing this issue, but it's actually very common, and it's absolutely part of the learning process that we all go through.
All right, so we actually just got a question from a student come through, and they're asking, Alex is asking, what are jobs that we can do with coding? What are some jobs that you could recommend out there for coding? We know what jobs that you've come from, but what are some jobs besides what you do and other fields that would use coding? I know there's a wealth of them out there. Michelle, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, as far as coding goes, that's kind of the skill, right? But as far as jobs, there's an exercise that I do a lot with my students, and it's kind of like try and think of one thing in the world that technology doesn't affect, or one industry or one job that doesn't use technology. And try as my students may, we have never actually been able to truly nail down anything that doesn't use technology or touch technology in some way. So anything that you're interested in, you can use coding for. Technology, I think, always has the opportunity to enhance something. I used to love to kind of like browse my favorite websites and look at the careers available and see how cool it was. I love fashion, I love art, and there's there's a really cool company called Rent the Runway. And, every time I go on there, I'm like, oh, there's always software engineering positions, or, anything that you can think of. Like galleries always have software engineering positions. There's nothing that technology doesn't touch. So anything that you can think of, you can use coding for.
Awesome. Ryan, what fields do you know of that would be good for jobs for coding?
like Michelle said, I think just about every field has coding in some degree or another. It may take different shapes, whether you're building applications or you're doing some kind of automation or reporting or some customization on top of an existing piece of software. I would say, especially starting out, there's a quote that I like, which is, say yes to every opportunity. If you don't like it, you can always quit later. So especially when you're first starting your career, just go into it and you'll find out pretty quickly what you do and don't like, and what you want from a company culture, what you want from a community, where you want to live. All those kinds of things will become pretty obvious.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. I like the quote too. Shane, what would you recommend to students that are looking for different jobs?
I mean, everything's going to be the same as what they said, but I'll try to be a little bit more interesting, right? So, be unique about it, right? So you could even program the technology for a cruise ship so that people can text between each other when they're on the cruise, or you could make the animatronics for Disney World, or anything in the world that you want to work in has some kind of a programming job. It's just a matter of finding those opportunities. And there's the mundane e-commerce building, websites that exist everywhere, all the way up to the exciting, interesting, gaming programming, and like I said, animatronics, robotics. There's a lot out there. So just about anything.
Yeah, I know there's a wealth of opportunities. I know small businesses would love to have coders that would help create their websites or apps for their places of business and stuff like that. So there's a lot out there. Well, we're reaching the end of our time, and I'm going to bring you three back for some final words in just a few minutes. But I just want to thank you before we let you go, before we bring you back. But we really appreciate your time today. I know it's a lot of time out of your busy schedules, and we really appreciate you being here and asking questions. And I'm sure there'll be lots of students that'll get to see this later on during this week as we go through different things. So I want to thank you again for being here. And so we're going to wrap up a little bit here, and then we'll bring you back for some final words in just a second. So I want to say that we've got some great stuff going on from the Educational Technology Training Team. We've been working on some video series, and we're really excited about these video series coming out. They'll come out for the first of the year. We've got some things on originality reports, and then we're working on a few other subject series. And we'll also have updates. We're going to have some really cool things and updates with some of the Google apps, as well as some of the smart apps for the smart boards in your screens and stuff like that. So stick with us. Keep monitoring our channel. We will keep adding things. And if you subscribe, you'll get notifications when we add things. And you can always do that. And also, check out our website. We keep adding new resources to our website. It's there, edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. And we really appreciate you being here for our Hour of Code. So let's bring back our coders, and let's give them some chance to do some final words. So Shane, I'm going to start with you. So what final words would you give us today? Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Just to recap what I said, if this is something you're interested in, then, make sure it's something that you really love and you want to pursue outside of your 9-to-5 all the time, every day. Keep up with it. You don't need to chase all the latest fads. There are a lot of them. I know one of the biggest ones that's been kind of waging the war over the last few years is the JavaScript war. And you've got tons of different frameworks and languages, and you don't need to learn all of them. You don't need to stay up on the latest and greatest. Just find one that's a solid tool for you, and implement it, learn it, and become an expert at it. And you'll be very successful if you do that.
Great. Ryan, what would you get final words for us?
So first off, thank you for Joe and you, John, for putting this together. I would say definitely, take heed to some of the great advice today. And, as we're learning and as you grow and as you start to develop in your career, remember all the people that helped you get there, and make sure that you are at that point participating in the community and giving back. Because that's one thing that I really miss with COVID, is not being able to see and meet people, because it's really been a pleasure.
Yeah, we really had to adapt. I know in the education world, we've adapted a lot in the past 10 months. And so we understand that. Thank you, Ryan. Michelle, what final words would you give us?
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks again for having us here. And I think my final thought would be that there is a place for everyone in technology. I firmly believe that everyone can code, everyone can learn how to code. It's up to you if that's what you are drawn to do. But if you are drawn to coding and to software development, there is a place for you in tech, and find your community and work through the challenges and just stick with it.
Those are awesome words. Thank you so much for being here, and we really appreciate you, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank